If you're like me, you're an avid user of the traditional arcade stick. So when the guys from Mixbox Arcade hit me up about getting my hands on one of these Mixboxes, I had to say yes. So, on today's HurtboxTV's Arcade Corner, whatever the hell I'm naming it, we're going to be looking at the Mixbox from Mixbox Arcade. If you're a longtime follower of the channel, then you may be familiar with the series of videos I did called Gear Reviews. In it, I reviewed various sticks and other things that were sort of fighting game related, and one of those videos happened to be about a similar device called the Hurtbox. I'll link that right up there in the title. In it, I had some negatives about it, my own personal grievances with the thing, but generally it was a pretty good device. I did like it. And if I'm sure, it's been a little while, I did say that I wanted to see a Hurtbox with a WASD configuration. So, a few years later, Mixbox Arcade comes along to fulfill our wishes. And the guys over at Mixbox Arcade were awesome enough to send me one to do some videos along with a review of it. Now, even though I said it would be interesting to see a WASD style stick, I'm gonna have to come clean and admit that I never really played keyboard and mouse much on PC. Not for fighters and not for shooters. So, I've generally stuck to arcade stick because the games that I play are generally at the EVO venue, not the dumpster across the street from the EVO venue on a laptop that houses the Melty Blood setup. And so, what we're going to be doing is, from a complete newcomer's perspective, we're going to be taking a look at how the Mixbox feels, how it plays, how it is, and we're going to be comparing it to its obvious competitor, the Hurtbox. So first, we're going to be taking a look at the specs. The Mixbox features Cherry MX mechanical switches for the WASD buttons, authentic Sanwa Denshi buttons for the 8 buttons. It's in a metal case. It's compatible with the PS4 Pro, the PS4, the PS3, and it also supports X input for you guys on the PC. Now, before I get into all the usual stuff that I would do around this point, I'm just going to point out that my Mixbox doesn't support the PS4 natively. It does suffer from the 8-minute timeout, and I will consider it a negative, but the guys at Mixbox did point out to me before I brought it up to them that this is a Generation 1 PCB, and they couldn't get mine upgraded in time, I believe, to the actual PS4 version. And that future Hurtboxes will actually have PS4 support. It will be an actual authentic PlayStation 4 controller, which is good on them. I hope that all of you guys who get a Mixbox are going to be getting those kinds. They also stated that they're going to have the, I believe they said they're going to have the touchpad, they're going to have the L3, R3. They're going to have all the features of a DualShock 4, so while those are negatives because I don't have those on mine, they may be on yours if you decide to get this in the future. Now, with that out of the way, what do I like about the Mixbox? Well, the stick is a pretty good size. It certainly is nice. It's at about 15 inches by about 10 inches, and it's about 2.5 inches deep. And it comes in at about 5.5 pounds. So it's pretty solid, it's pretty weighty. The Cherry MX switches seem good enough. I'm not a PC guy, so I've never really tried Cherry, Brown, Blues, etc. My current gaming keyboard has Cherry MX Red switches. They feel pretty responsive and doing commands seemed pretty easy. My first time picking up the Mixbox, I was able to do omens pretty consistently with very little effort, especially compared to a stick. So that's definitely a plus. The Sanwas are just that, Sanwas. They're responsive and they're good buttons. The metal case feels sturdy, and I like that there's a cable compartment. One of the main negatives that I had for the Hurtbox, and I did consider it a negative on the Hurtbox's part. Unscrewing the back, you can see that, well, at least for the Sanwa buttons, they have quick disconnects, so replacing the buttons should be fine. Though soldering seems to be needed if you want to switch out the Cherry MX switches for anything else, whatever your preference is. Aside from that, everything seems fairly clean. And on the top, removing 4 screws lets you take the plexi off. And to my surprise, the artwork isn't actually printed on this plexi. It's a separate sheet of paper. which is nice if you want to swap anything out for your own custom artwork. Another thing that you can't really do on the Hurtbox without having to buy a replacement plexi. So it's a solid enough stick, but let's talk about the things that I didn't quite like or I wish that it had. And the first issue is that the Mixbox, when you get it, comes to you in a box. It's just a box. It's a cardboard box with the Mixbox logo slapped on it. And I get it that this is a small company, they just started up and this is their first release. But I kind of wish that I kind of hope that in the future, we get something more in line with what we get from standard arcade providers like Quanba, Hori, and Mad Catz, where we get a box that has a stick design. The stick is on the front and we have details on the back. It's a little gripe that I have, but I hope in the future that we get something like that for the Mixbox. The second issue that I am taking with this thing is that I don't know if this is inherently a Cherry MX mechanical switch issue, but hitting the directional buttons on the Mixbox produces an audible ringing noise, and it's kind of annoying. My keyboard, my mechanical keyboard, does the same thing, so that's why I don't know if it's just a switch issue, if that's just what mechanical switches do. But it is pretty audible and it is kind of annoying. And though it is a solid metal case, it does have a few design flaws that I could see on some of the corners. The holes also don't seem to match up with the backplate, so some of the screws aren't properly aligned, some will be very difficult to unscrew, and some will be very easy to unscrew. While I like the rubber feet, I would also like to see more anti-slip material like what you would see on a Quanba Obsidian or the Dragon. The lack of a touchpad or the L3, R3 buttons is also kind of a bummer, but at the same time the Mixbox guys did say that that would be added in future versions, so it is a bummer, but I already addressed that earlier in the video. Now the last thing that I do have that is a negative for the Mixbox is the cable compartment. While I'm glad that there is a cable compartment on the Mixbox, I just wish the door that was attached to it was actually attached to the body itself. It just clicks in, but once you open the compartment door, the thing just kind of falls off. So how does the Mixbox look in action? Well, just like I do in every video, I'm just gonna throw up a few clips of me doing some combos and some general moving around and stupid crap, and then I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on the Mixbox. So I think the Mixbox is a pretty interesting idea, and I think it is actually heading in the right direction. Before shooting this video, I did get a friend of mine to come over who is a Hurtbox player to try out this stick, and while he did like it, he did have some issues with it. One of them being he feels that the WASD layout is a little too cramped for him. He's used to the Hurtbox layout, and he said that it might be interesting to spread the buttons out a little bit, just spread these out, just give it more space so it feels less cramped. Personally, I'd like to see the cable compartment door actually attached to the arcade stick, and I'd like to also see them tidy up the corners and just check the quality control a little bit so that we don't get little imperfections in the corners and all that good stuff. Make sure the holes are aligned properly. And onto like parts wise, I would like to see options like a Seimitsu version of this or a Crown Samduxa version of these sticks. I'd also like to see a version that has, you know, the silent cherry switch, or silent mechanical switches, the browns, the blues, reds, everything in between, all the types of mechanical switches that are out there. I also would love to see on Mixbox Arcade's site the ability to customize your Mixbox. Not just have Seimitsu or Sanwa specific versions. I would like to see ones that have all Seimitsu parts with whatever blues, browns, whatever mechanical switches. Maybe Samduxa, Crown Samduxa, I think that's how you say those buttons names. Have some of those in there. Have silent or the gunmetal metallic, you know, all the metallic series Sanwa buttons. Throw those on there, you know, have different versions. Charge a little bit extra to have a customized feature. So, you know, if I wanted the metallic series, whatever, I can get those with whatever mechanical switches I wanted. You know, silent mechanical switches, silent Sanwa parts. And I wouldn't even stop there. Give them the option to upgrade to a Brook UFB so that it plays on more than just PC and Sony consoles. So you can have a Mixbox for the Xbox One, you know, the PS3, the Xbox 360, all those consoles that the Brook UFB supports. While it's a little bit pricey at $249.99, and it is a fairly alright arcade stick, I think if they do manage to iron out all of these issues that I have with it, it will be more than worth its price. Both the Hurtbox and the Mixbox are fantastic arcade sticks for what they do. And as far as I know, that these two peripherals do kind of give you a little bit of an advantage over your control for inputs. But I will be doing some more videos on this particular Mixbox in the future, so you can check those out if you are getting into the Mixbox or you haven't figured out if you wanted to yet, and maybe you might make your decision there. So, that's the Mixbox. If you liked it, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down, whatever, leave. I mean it. And of course, you can check the prior video. I'll put it right up there. It was the cheapest arcade stick on Newegg, that horrible Nygassen disaster that's over there laying in pieces. I'm gonna get to that in the future. Do something with that, I don't know what. But I gotta say, you guys have really liked that last video. It's been getting tons of views. I guess you guys really like this format, so I'm gonna keep improving the format. Got better lighting. At least I hope you guys like the new lighting, the new setup, everything like that. And I don't really have much more else to say other than thank you for watching the video. Go ahead and subscribe, click the bell notification, all the other 800 things YouTube makes you do in order to actually get videos from the people you subscribe to. And end card.